Good morning. Happy Friday, everyone. We've made it through another week. Hope that the week went well for you. I am happy that it's finally Friday, that it's finally the weekend. Also, it's been another 2 weeks. It's a sprint day for me at work. We're going to be going through all of the fun sprint meetings, and which is, I mean, it's useful. I really like the way we've set it up as a team, but also it's exhausting by the end. But I'm really happy they only have to do this once every 2 weeks, and not more often. With that being said, we're not here to talk about my work. We're here to continue to work on our Asteroids Rust game, which if I remember correctly, we're basically just working on getting everything here working correctly. So let's just go through it. We have collides with asteroids. You're yelling at me because type annotation is needed, which is right here. Okay. I'm gonna have point. Oh, wait. Okay, so you're saying you're not in. So location is a component data. Cast components. Okay. I'm not sure this is actually an error. Also, I noticed that particles was not an error and now it is an error. Rust analyzer, what's going on? The same problem here. Let's go through here and just do the errors that we have in the list. All right, so query. Okay, so we need to, this is the draw system. Just the standard good old draw system. We're gonna draw everything out based upon its current location and its mesh. So let's go ahead and reset this and get it done. So we're gonna start with a query is equal to dot query. What are we getting here? We need locations, rotations, and the meshes. And that's it. Well, that kind of makes sense. Locations and rotations and meshes. So names, location, then we need the rotations. And the mesh. Okay, that will give us our query, and then we'll just extract these out. Okay, so we got our locations, we got our rotations, we got our meshes. I think like we should have the same number for each of these. We should be able to just loop through the locations and then just draw these out. All right, so we'll get our index, we'll get our location out of here. We'll now need to get the current location, the current rotation, the current mesh, and sort of like extract it. So location is a point. Rotation is an F32. Okay, so we have all of those. Once we have these, then it's time for us to do our graphics draw. Oh wait, no, we need to borrow them first, don't we? I wonder if I can borrow them right. I think I can borrow them right when I use it though. So graphics draw, and the context, the drawable. So this is going to be. It is kind of weird. Like, I wonder if I can do this, because I wonder if I can do like a reference, but after dereferencing it of the mesh dot borrow. I don't know if that's going to work, because if I just dereference it, I'm going to get the actual thing itself, and I need to give it a reference to it, but the ref data structure is not what it wants either. That doesn't satisfy the type system. Okay, and then drop paramps. We're gonna rotation and okay, so here we want to set to rotation. So this needs to be a dereft. Okay, that should give us that. And then we want the destination. This can be our location.x. Actually, we can use our to array. Location.to array. Oh, borrow, then to array. And then at the end of all this, we'll return that. All right, we're just getting those weird errors. But I think that's everything we're doing here. Okay, so try expression alternatives have incompatible types. So expected struct. Oh, reference. Okay, in handle input, know a method named query1. All right, let's take care of this next. All right, so what are we doing here? We are getting this resource. This should be about the same that we're doing previously. But this query, the query, and it looks like, is this the only query in here? Okay, so we're gonna have get player. Okay, so we have to update all of these too. So we're gonna have like a player ID. Get player ID. and you take in the world, a reference to the world. Let's actually fix you to be a result. Okay, so context. Now this can be a question mark. And then after that we have handle rotation. We're gonna pass in the player ID. Player index, I think this is a U32 because it's the player ID now. Right, okay, so this is handle rotations, basically rotations plus minus. Okay, so we're having to find the player out of here, and then we're having to get... Yeah, okay, so I don't actually think... So we know that the player exists. We can get the player ID, but I don't think well, the player ID will help in a way. Because we could just query for that as well as the rotations, and then compare, like loop until we compare the IDs. So we're not going to do this query here. Let's go down and do it here. All right, so queries. It's going to be equal to, so we have our world, query. All right, what are we caring about here? We want our rotations. And then I want the entity ID. All right, so once I have that, then got our vector of those. Oh, so what do I need to do? If the key is pressed, we know the player exists because we were able to find the player. This wouldn't be called if the player didn't exist. So if the key is pressed, then... Yeah, okay, so it's like rotate left or rotate right. This does mean we need to find the exact specific player. Maybe what we can do is have a function in here. So find player index. Find index of player. And that... We don't need the world anymore. We can have the player ID, which is a U32. And then we can have the IDs, which is going to be this vec of components. And in this case, I can take ownership of the IDs because I'm not going to use them anymore. And we're going to return a usize. We should probably return a result with a usize. All right, so what are we going to need to do? We need to loop through our IDs. Well, hello there, Zilby. Oh, you want to go explore the closet? I don't know how long he'll hang out in there. I think he saw a spider in there last night, so now he's like super interested in hanging out in there. See if he can find any more of them. All right, so find index of player. We want to loop through all the IDs and make sure it equals to the player ID. So let's do for ID. Now we also care about the index. So we're gonna get the index and the ID in IDs.iter.enumerate. That will give us the index and the ID here. We need to now cast this ID down. So ID is a data wrapper of a U32. Okay. So now we have that. We've cast it away. We have to borrow it next. That ID. But at that point in time, we can just do the comparison. So if our player ID, if you're equal to the dereferenced ID.borrow, then we want to do an early return, okay, and hand the index. And if we reach the end, we just want to return. Well, I can't return nothing like this. I would have to return something. I wonder if I want to like have some kind of error. I could have a one-off error here, which I believe that the error macro has a new error. Is it bail? Oh, is it error like that? Error, and this is could not find index of player. Okay, this is just a report. So we're gonna return an error into, and that's what we're gonna report. Okay. And you are definitely gonna be a reference. All right, so then we can grab this out here. That player index is equal to find index of player. We'll pass it that player ID and we'll pass it these IDs. And now rotations. Okay, so rotations of player index. It's not going to be quite this simple, unfortunately. Have to do that. And you have to be mutable too. The rotation is type is a data wrapper of a F32. Okay, player index. And then we're going to cast. And we only need to cast you. We never need to cast mute. And that's going to allow us to do, so let rotation equals rotation.borrow mute. So we get this ref mute of an F32. And so now we can do may as well do this. Rotation minus equals the rotation speed. Might need to do this. I keep on forgetting the reference in front of here. Okay, so we're good to go there, and basically we do the exact same thing right here. Can I find value wrapped rotations in this scope? Rotations. Oh, right, because we're getting this out of here now. So this doesn't exist anymore. Then you're yelling at us. Okay, so we need to return a result. And we don't need to return you anymore. All right, down to 14 errors. All right, handle screen edges. So this is going to be when anything hits the edge of the screen, it wraps around to the other side. So we're going to get the arena size as a resource. That's fine. We have this query 1 though. Letter locations, okay. And then wrap location. Okay, so we're just getting the locations out of here, and then we're able to do all this fun stuff. So that, and we don't really care like where everything is. This we don't care about anything. It just, is it off the edge of the screen? Okay, so queries is our world query. All we care about is names, location. Okay, that gives us that. We're now able to do our iter mute. We can do a for each. We have our location. But that's going to be this component data. So before I can do any of this stuff, we have to cast you. So that mute location, which is this data wrapper. And your point. You're going to equal location.cast. And I'm not going to be able to do this question mark unless I do a try for each. All right, so it gives me that. Then finally, location equals location.borrow mute, which gives us our ref mute of this point. You need to be you are component data. Oh, I think the problem is the try for each. That doesn't. Type annotations needed. Okay, so it doesn't know how to handle this. All right, so I think we're gonna have to unwrap here. Okay, so we borrow mute, we have our location. Then now we can do like location X and reassign. All right, so I think that's gonna work just fine. No more errors here. Update accelerations. What do we got going on here? So get player ID. Pass the word. You're going to be the player ID. Okay, so get resource. That's fine. Okay, so if we're thrusting, so if we have a player and we're thrusting, then we get our thrust speed. Okay, so then we need all of these things because we're querying for our accelerations and our rotations. And that's what we care about. Now, the problem is we don't know what the index of the player is. Now, where was that other, I think we can create a helper to deal with this. So we can head over to helpers. And we're gonna take in, okay, so we need the, how do we want to handle this? Getting the player index, we're gonna need some kind of component data vector, probably of the IDs. So we need like the player ID, which is a U32, and we need like a sample of the component from a query. So this should be like the IDs from query, and you're going to be a reference to a vec, because I don't know if they need it. It needs to be, it's needed elsewhere, and that's component data. We're going to return a result with a usize in it. All right, so from here, we know that we have the IDs from this query. We can go ahead and loop through here. So what is that going to be like? Let guess it's just going to be for index ID in IDs from query, iter, enumerate. It gives us the index and this ID, the data wrapper of a U32. Oh, you're a U32, not an F32. And your reference equals ID dot cast. Then, let's see. I have that. Let's go ahead and get into the very specific. Let's borrow it. So that's going to be our ID.borrow. Okay, so now we have a ref of a U32. So if the player ID, if you're equal to a dereferenced ID, Then I want to return okay. Index. And if we reach the end here, we want to do that sort of like last minute error. That being said, it might be good for us to actually create like errors that we can use in game. That might be nice to have. We don't have any at all. Okay, so one of these errors, for example, is cannot find player index or player player does not exist. I think that's kind of what we're getting at here. The player doesn't exist, and that's why we couldn't find it. Okay, and then we need, how do I do it in, we're gonna okay, we need to use this error. So we need to make sure we're bringing that in. And then we're going to derive debug and error, and then we can go ahead and use this error macro to like set what the display is going to be. Okay, it's just error. Okay. Then for you, we're gonna have, what is it also? It's just error. It's okay, it's like this. All right, so could not find player in the world. Or maybe just could not find the player. All right, we're good there. And so now we can use this to get here. We're going to return an error. This is going to be errors. Player does not exist. It's an into. And you're an okay, capital O. All right, perfect. Now we can go back to update accelerations, I believe is where we were using this. We needed the player ID so we can get the player index right away. Let's just get that right here. So player, wait, I can't do that. I have to do that only after we do our query. That's the big thing. And it looks like we have to do the query right here. So let queries equals 2. All right, so we're getting acceleration. And we're also getting the rotations. And we're going to get the IDs. Okay, so we now have this vector of these. All right, well, this is not quite as simple as we were hoping that it would be, obviously, because we have rotations of player index. That's not really, like, rotations of player index will give a, okay, so we need to get the player index now. Let player index. Also, where do you think player index is coming from? They don't exist anymore. Okay, so player index is going to be equal to get player not ID. That get player index. Okay, so we need the player ID, which we have up here. And then we need a reference to the IDs. And that will give us this usize, which is the player index. Perfect. Then we need the specific, like the player rotation. In order to get the player, so player rotation is equal to rotations of player index. So that gives us that. And then I need to cast you. To an F32. And we need to update you. No, we're just figuring out what you are. We don't do anything with you. So yeah, this is fine. So we cast you. And then we have to borrow you. Right, so then this allows us to say, okay, for you, rotations, player index, this is just going to be the player rotation. We get the cosine and we get the sine for the x and the y. We figure out what the rotation, we create a new rotation. Sort of like a rotation force, essentially. We multiply the scalar, and then we tell it to accelerate using, well, okay, accelerations is not going to be that easy either. This is going to be the player. I can do this down here too. So once we have this, then we need our accelerations out of this. Let player acceleration. Now you need to be mutable. And acceleration is a point. Okay, so we have player accelerations here as the data wrapper. Player acceleration. equals player acceleration. We're gonna borrow mute. And then player acceleration, we can add this rotation that we just created. All right, so you're all happy and you can go away. Down to 11 errors. I do wonder, I bet that I can create like a helper maybe to do these queries. That might be nice. Okay, you don't want to open this through the keyword. Okay, so update mesh system. So first of all, get player ID out of here. If we need the player index, then yeah. Okay, so if let sum player index equals, this needs to be a get player ID. So you need to be an ID. All right, so we get the resource if we're thrusting or not. Okay, so this is gonna be updating the player mesh to show the little thrust triangle at the bottom of it. Little engines, the fire. All right, so we have this query here. So we have the wrapped sizes. Okay, and then so this is one thing. This is a get resource. This is a get resource. Then we have the meshes down here is the other thing. So okay, we need these two things. So sizes and meshes. And it sounds like we're also going to need the IDs. Okay, so let's... Yeah, they're going to create a new... Yeah, then we have to send it... Okay, so we have to figure out what you are based upon that. So let's go ahead and do our query. And I wonder if I could do this. Let's see if I can. So if right here, let's try down here and do it. We're gonna have a function query for like do the query that we need for this. We know we need the world. And in this case, we're gonna want the player ID. Is that true? No, I don't need the player ID at all. I just need the world. We're gonna return a result with a and in this case, we know what we're getting out. We're going to be querying for the IDs, the sizes, and the meshes. Lumicode, hello. How are the tiny spaceships doing today? So far, I haven't been able to run them for the last couple days because we were working on BBECS and then working on all these errors to get, after we updated BBECS. So hopefully they're still going good, but it was a pretty major change we made. So it will be interesting to see if it all works once I get all the errors to go away. We're just slowly and steadily chipping away at them though. Hopefully I'll be done by the end of today's stream, but if not, then definitely on Sunday we'll be able to get it done. Major upgrades are painful to patch around. It's necessary though, and like especially with the style that I've been coding this in, which is do what I need because that's all I know and that's my understanding, and then like learn something more and then refactor and update. All right, so I'm experimenting with creating a query function that's going to return the sizes and the meshes out. I wonder if like I could make helpers to do this. If I made helper, because if I did something like, okay, now give me the query. Oh, and if I'm going to return the query itself, essentially. So give me the query, which is going to be the a vector of stir, and we're going to return a result that has the components. So it's a vec of reference to component data. Then all this is going to do is just say, okay, world.query, and hand it the query. So expected enum of like static component data found result vec. Okay, so result vec static component data? Really? It's static component data, huh? Oh, thank you so much, LumaCode. I'm glad that it's helpful. So really? Okay, mismatched types found. Okay, expected. Now this static found. Okay, now it finds the not static. I can't win with the other. Oh, it doesn't know if it's borrowed from world or query. Okay, I got it. So we would need lifetime support for this. So I would need to do something like, oh, can I auto generate the lifetime? Oh, that would be cool if it could do that. So I need to say, I think here. And then it is A. Nope, that's wrong. Where do I put it? Is it in front of function? Okay, it is here. Is it? I think it's colon. What's the symbol for it? I forget. Let's go look it up. Let's see. Rust function time. Okay, so for, oh, no reference. That was my problem. So I had the general idea right. I just need to do that. Then we're good. Now, what are you saying? Mismatch types expected this. Found a result. Am I gonna have to like do this in two parts? Like let queries is equal to you. Like that. Yeah. What? No. Okay, expected destruct of this. So a vec. Oh, it's a vec of vec. I totally forgot. It's a vector of vectors. That works. Okay, let's try this again. Where if I just do this. There we go. Okay, so, I mean, this isn't really that great. I've like only one line is out. So if I do something like let queries equals query pass in the world, so world, and then the query is going to be like this vec of names. What are we doing? We're doing the sizes. And we're doing the meshes. And we're doing the IDs. Thank you. Got my morning tea. Which is perfect. My hands are cold. All right. Then entity ID. Okay, so that would give us this like vector of vectors. Now, if I wanted to extract out, and maybe make this, oh, I don't know a good way to like extract out of here, except by like a tuple. And this would be like a query, like, okay, so if I had like a query 3, let's say, then I'm going to return not this vector, vector, vector. All right, so something I'm gonna add in. Where's my? I'm gonna do skills to sort of like learn to set up. I do want that. I also want to make sure that I can abstract the queries from BBECS into something nicer. Okay, I'll deal with this later, and I'll probably create that at the appropriate time. This is gonna be query. All right, so pretty much like that's all I did was just replace the fact that I had to do a world. Not really the best thing. All right, what are you yelling at? You're not yelling at about anything. You are yelling. Oh yes, you don't need the world passed in here. You just need that vector. Perfect. Now, let sizes 0. Meshes. Series of 1. IDs. Queries of 2. All right, so we need the player index based upon this, which we can get now. Okay, so we need the player ID, which we have, and we need the IDs, reference to the IDs. That gives us this usize here. Then, okay, so it's not going to be quite that easy. We need the player size. And the player size, I'm pretty sure, is an F32. And that's going to be sizes of player index. And we're going to cast. Now I should be able to borrow this. So we can have this be the player size dot borrow. And then I'll dereference you right here. And then we need the same thing for player mesh. Now, we're creating a new player mesh. You need to be mutable. Still just going to cast it. And let's also just get the... I don't want to like shadow this to overwrite here. So this is going to be the new player mesh. And then we're going to have the player mesh is equal to the player mesh dot borrow mute. Then we can have a dereferenced player mesh equals the new player mesh. And accidentally brought you in, don't need you, and don't need self. All right, eight errors now. Update movement is next. Okay, so we're doing a lot of queries in here. So in update movement system, we're getting the accelerations, the velocities, and the locations. And then we're just going through, we're just looping through and doing all the things. Let's rewrite this. Okay, so to update our movement system, we need the accelerations, velocities, and locations, so we can update the velocities with the accelerations, the locations with the velocities, and then reset the accelerations back to 0. That's pretty much all that's happening here. So queries is equal to query so we need the acceleration. The velocity. And what do I have? I have acceleration, location. Okay, so we extract all of those out. I then need, look, we know that they're the exact same size, so it doesn't really matter which one I loop through. Let's do our 4, take an index and a location. Okay, so once I have that, all right, let's convert everything to what we want it to be. So these all need to be mutable too. So mute. Our current location is going to be a type data wrapper point. Then location is going to be acceleration. Although your accelerations of index, so you're going to be velocities index, and you're going to be velocity. All right, what are you yelling about? Oh, reference. Okay, once we're here, it's pretty simple. We the accelerations get added to velocity. So we do need to borrow these. So let's do it one more time. We can sort of interpolate through here. Let's do this. Copy. Let u equals u dot borrow mute. All right, so now we borrowed all these mutably. We just have a ref mute to them, so we can destructure them and add them in. So I believe we can do something like velocity first. So a dereferenced velocity plus equals dereferenced acceleration. That should work. So we've updated the velocity. Let's update the location. Location plus equals velocity. And then finally, deref. I think we can just do the acceleration dot multiply scalar 0.0. And that will reset acceleration to 0. And there we go. This is the new function for this. Even with all of this extra sort of crap we need to do for queries, it is shorter and simpler. So I'm getting like better at this. Like it's still a lot of work to do with BBECS to make it like nice to use, but it's like we're improving it each time. 5 errors left. Take a look at what we got. Query 1. Okay, so in an update rotation system, we're just going to take... What are we doing here? We have the... Okay, we get the rotations. What are we doing? How is this doing anything at all? It's not doing anything. I don't even need this. Update rotations needs to go away. Which means in our mod, state rotation goes away. You go away. And you go away. Hey, 3 errors. Wait, nope. Okay. Yeah, no, it was that was wrong. It's I had 3 errors. I had a filter in by accident. Okay, so in create player ship, this is driving me nuts. Apparently, so I looked into it. Mint, so the Mint library creates these points using a macro, and Rust Analyzer does not handle macros with types very well. Epic Blarg, hello. Yes, epic, epic crisis, existential crisis. I'm like, there's no errors, but there's errors. How could there not be errors? Okay, so this like is not an error. It actually exists there, and you can pull it out. Type annotations needed. That's not a problem. Type annotations needed. I need to run this with the real thing to see what the actual errors are. There we go. Let's find out what this actual error is. Looks like 2 of them. Cannot infer type from this. That location. Okay, so collide with asteroids, line 38. You're not red squiggly line here. Okay, so you're saying that you cannot infer the type, consider specifying the type. Oh, and a try for each. That's our problem. It's the try for each. I have to unwrap here, and we have to just use a for each. That we've learned that's actually one of the reasons I've been switching away back into like just using for in loops. None of these things were working. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, I think only 1 error this time. And it's going to be probably the same exact thing. Yeah, let's try for each. I did try to infer types, and I just couldn't get it to work for some reason. I need to play a little bit more with try for each to sort of like understand like the custom types based upon possibly 2 different results being returned, because that was a problem. What are you yelling about? Cannot move out. Why not? All right, now we're getting lots of 44 errors now. Got you. Okay, so we have queries. I don't want to move out, apparently. So should you just be references? It doesn't really matter to me. Apparently. Get player index. You are a reference to the IDs. Okay. Oh, no, ID. Oh, you need to be the actual thing. I should make you be a reference in here. I think I even talked about when I created it and then forgot to. Oh, wait. Oh, you're collided with asteroids. Oh, that's my problem. Let's actually get player index. We already have a better one now. Where was that? Here, get player index. We can pull you in. You can't find it, huh? Okay, so here we want the player ID, which we have here, and then the IDs from the query, and you're a reference to the IDs. Okay, this marker. So reference the state. Okay, so we get the data wrapper, the string. If I borrow you, you're a ref mute. Okay, so if I do that, we're a ref string. Marker. And I don't think I can do this now. Or maybe I can. Cool. So just the wrong location of where I was doing the deref. Okay, so wait, I don't need to do this? Mismatch types. Expected. See, I don't have it elsewhere. Okay, so you're really using that one. Mismatch types expected a vector of component data found reference. Find index of player. That feels. Is that one of mine? Find index of player. That is one of mine. That's our problem. We need to actually use get player index. Come on. Where did I leave that code? I have it somewhere. Oh, where did I leave it? Where's like the player index equals? Here it is. Okay, so get player index. And then, okay, so here we have the player ID and the IDs. There you go. Are you sure? Huh, look at that. Cannot borrow it because it's not borrowed as mutable. Or do you need to be borrowed as mutable? Did I borrow the wrong one as mute? Oh, that's what it was. Okay. It's like every time I come close, it's like, nope, nope, you have 30 errors. 30 errors now. All right, so your reference there. Cannot borrow, locations is mutable, that's behind. Okay, what am I doing? Handle screen edges system. You don't need to be mutable at all. It's the entire point of the RC ref mute. Okay, so you're there, you're mute here. Okay. All right, what are you suggesting? Oh, and draw particles. Did I forget? Okay, so I have ref mute. Need to do a dot dest of the location dot to array. Okay, and then mesh dot borrow. Let's do that there. Now this new mesh. Okay, can I do that? Yes. Okay. At least until it yells at me that I can't. Okay, player acceleration. You're not mutable here. You're mutable here. Okay. Player mesh is this ref mute. I would love to be able to do this. Oh, same thing. Mute here, not mutable here. Just save the file. Saving a file would probably help. Oh my gosh, no, it doesn't help. Okay. It actually does help. It just made Rust Analyzer realize there's more errors. Okay, so these mutes go down one. So we're gonna remove you, go down, space, mute here. And then we're good to go. Okay, create message, never used. Right. That's true. We haven't like used this yet. Can I run you now? It works, kind of. We have no asteroids, but I can move all of you around. Okay, that's cool. I have a feeling that we have asteroids. but I don't see them. What? So we have a draw system in here. So we have our locations, we have our meshes. Okay, so destination, borrow, to array. Like that all should work, right? For the, like we are drawing the asteroids, or we're inserting them in, right? Okay, let's think about this. Card this hard mode and ship it. Yes. Oh yeah, it's it forces blind speedruns. It's the enforced blind speedrun mode. It also is the only mode. Okay, so create asteroids. Okay. So in self-create asteroid, so here's the, okay, we take in the world, recreate the asteroid mesh. Okay, so for this create asteroid mesh, we do make, okay, so it's all this fun stuff to like make it in the fun. Okay, and we're making you white with a 3-point stroke around with polyline. Okay. Now let's say I didn't do this 0.2. Let's say we got rid of that. Where we have this 0.2. Are they all in unique lines? Sort of. I'm gonna move you down here, then it's gonna be consistent. Because I think these can be just arrays. So let's say I do this. Go down one. Delete until the X. Down one. Delete into the Y. Delete you. Up to do that. So if I do that, now do you work? No, I still can't see you. Like something's going on where I can't actually see the meshes. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, I know exactly what's going on. I know what's going on. So in our draw system, we're doing a query. We want everything that has a rotation, that has a mesh, and has a location. I removed rotations from asteroids, which means that only one thing has a mesh and a rotation and a location. And that would be the player. So the easiest way to add this back in is to create asteroids. We just say, hey, you have you have a rotation. And your rotation is 0.0. And that should make them come back. There we go. And we already saw that I can fly around still. Everything is still working. When I die, the particles fade away and disappear. Nothing crashes. So our big, huge refactor, we're right back where we started a few days ago. But now, with the ability for me to do the respawning, because that was the big thing. I needed to be able to delete by ID and I needed, like, I want to be able to like now do a message in the center with like starting in like 3 2 1 or something like that. But I didn't want to have like a rotation and everything else on every single entity. So anyways, oh, we got to this point. All right, so with this, I will be back to stream on Sunday morning, and it's going to be all new stuff then. Like, no more refactoring. We're going to be writing new code. Probably code to like respawn the player and maybe even fire bullets. I don't know. We'll figure that out as we go in there. So I'm gonna close off the